Welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And I want to talk to you about Man of La Mancha. This is a movie, came out in 1972, from a play that came out somewhat earlier. But it has actually several amazing messages as part of the movie. And one of them, it hit me a couple of times as I've watched it. It's like, where he pulls out the line, "The greatest madness is to see life as it is and not what it should be." Right? Oh man, the whole story is amazing, but it makes you question, what difference can one make in the life of somebody else? What difference can how you treat somebody affect somebody else? So Man of La Mancha is the story of Don Quixote, basically, framed through I don't know, if the idea that you have the Cervantes, who wrote Don Quixote, he's been arrested, he's set to appear before the Inquisition. But while he's in prison, his prisoners give him a mock trial. And as part of his defense, he tells the story of Alonso Quijana and Don Quixote de la Mancha. And it's amazing. Right? There's so much to it that is hopeful and uplifting in a situation, both in the story that he tells and in the prison, that here's uplifting in the darkest and dreariest of places. In places without hope, here is a beacon of hope. And in the story of Don Quixote, it's the beacon of hope is in the form of a madman, right? So if you don't know the story of Don Quixote, Alonso Quijana was a wealthy landowner, and he read and studied and how does they put it in the movie? He read until his brains dried up. he basically decides that he is going to become a knight. He decides that the world needs knight errantry, and so he is going to put on his armor, grab his old plow horse, which he now sees as a glorious war horse, and he is going to go out into the world righting all wrongs, because that's what the world needs, right? And the reality is, the dude's not all there, okay? The idea of tilting at windmills. I tilt at windows too. Sometimes windows gets me tilted. But no, he sees things that aren't there. He sees a windmill and thinks it's a giant, right? He sees an inn and thinks it's a castle. So yeah, he's not totally right in the head, okay? But it's where his madness goes, and how he sees and how he treats, in particular, one kitchen maid named Aldonza, that shows that maybe the dude is mad. Okay, fair. But maybe what we really need is to treat people differently, okay? And it's the story is pretty cool. Okay. Now, Man of La Mancha is a musical, and the music is amazing, okay? So much of the music just is just heart-stirring, and I love it. But let's set the character here of Aldonza, because this is important, okay? After fighting a windmill and losing, because it turns out windmills don't surrender and don't particularly care about your sword. Um, Don Quixote and his faithful squire Sancho retire to this inn, and there's Aldonza. And she's described as someone to whom life has been discourteous. And that is the understatement of the century, of several centuries, perhaps. But he also describes her as a tigress red in tooth and claw. But she is one of a number of women at the inn who provides pleasure for profit, as he puts it, as he's describing the inn. Now, this is important, okay? She's and I'm not going to shy away from this a little bit, all right? So if you have young children, sensitive ears, okay, you may want to dial them, turn them somewhere else, right? But she is, in fact, a prostitute. That's her side hustle, okay? And we find her. She's serving the meals to all of the muleteers who have come in and are resting for the night. And all of them are trying to get her to accept them, to take them into her bed for that night. And she's turning them all away, and with a heart-wrenching song in a lot of ways, with the message is, one pair of arms is like another, right? It doesn't matter who you are, right? I'll lay with you or with your brother, she says. It's all the same as long as you have money to pay, is where she comes. This is where she's at. She is not in a good place, and she does not like herself. And she describes herself in some pretty harsh language later in the movie. But this isn't how Don Quixote sees her. He doesn't see the kitchen maid. And while the muleteers treat her as a thing to be used and discarded, he sees a great lady. He sees the lady Dulcinea, a woman to do great deeds for, to love from afar and return to victorious, or to cherish in defeat. A woman who's deserving of greatness. She asks what he wants from her. He tells her nothing, and she calls him a liar. He says, okay, yes, I deserve that rebuke. He says, what I want is to serve you, to love you, to cherish you, but to be there for you. Which, as a person who has been on the other side of that, where men have zero desire to serve her, they only demand from her. Again, she is something to be used and discarded. Obviously, this is a little bit of a change for her, right? Don Quixote will stands up and defends her when no one else in the inn does. She's mad at him. She goes to swing at him. One of the muleteers grabs her hand. And Don Quixote goes gently and removes the hand that's holding hers back. And this surprises her. So, right, because this is not how she's used to being treated. When the guy she's finally agreed to, I don't know, to lay with, I suppose, we'll be gentle with it, that night, he's getting more and more insistent as she's trying to finish her chores, and then she's talking to Don Quixote, and Quixote, who's an old man, but still sees himself as a knight errant, he stands up to defend her from this guy who, again, wants to treat her like she's belongs to him. And yeah, he fights the muleteer and a bunch of his men, and they come out victorious. And but she is shocked. She's actually won something. And here's a man who is defending her honor, who is not treating her the way she has been treated. Okay, great. This is awesome. And we're going to get back into this here in a minute. But at one point as he's there, she asks him why he does what he does. Why is he a knight? What good is knighthood? Right? Now, this takes place in Spain in, I don't know, early 1800s, something like that, right? That is life as it is. He's not. He's a knight. Right? But she asks him, why is he a knight? And he sings this song at this point. It's called The Impossible Dream or The Quest. And I'll tell you, as a kid, this song used to bore me. But as I grew older and I understood what it was, it became one of the more powerful songs in the show. And in fact, listening to it a couple of times, it had me in tears last night as I was watching it again, because it is that powerful to me in a world that is dark and hateful. I mean, I just had an episode come out here a couple of weeks ago that was Stop Looking for Reasons to Hate, right? Where I was talking about Superman and Ironheart and, a couple of those other shows, some of these Star Wars shows that have come out recently, where people are just looking for reasons to hate the show. They've not seen it. They're just looking for a reason to hate it. And everything about it is horrible because the director said this, or heaven forbid it stars a black woman, or some other triviality, right? Yeah, no, it sucks, right? And you look at life on social media and in creator media space, all this, where hate sells, right? It's been a thing in newspapers. If it bleeds, it leads, right? But it's so present in modern creative media space, where the hottest of takes get the most views and the most gets the most amplified. Okay, because if you just say, yeah, I didn't like what that actor said, okay, 100% true, fine, whatever. But nobody cares if you say it like that. If you come out and say that actor said this horrible thing and they're the most horrible person ever and they hate puppies and this movie sucks because this actor and those types of things are what get clicks, right? But that is not what comes out of the message here of Don Quixote and his quest. He goes through the quest, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to read a lot of these lyrics and interject from time to time. But he starts, yes, what is his quest? Aldonza asks him. He answers, and I'm not going to sing it, okay? I like to sing. I don't sing well. I'm not going to sing it, okay? So you don't have to worry about that. But it says, his quest is to dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go. All right. That's really tame at the moment. Okay. That's the prologue. Here's where things get intense. His quest is to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. he is striving for something better. He is striving to right those wrongs that the rest of society doesn't care about. They're just too hard. We can't fix this. He is striving to fix this. This is where things really start to gain power for me. He comes out, and the chorus basically of his songs says, "This is my quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far." Right? He's not going to stop. He's not going to let himself get distracted. Doesn't matter if he's tired of it and he's worn out. No, his quest is to fight for the right without question or pause. And this is the line that gets me every single time. To be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. This is the quest. This is what drives him. This is something that, man, I wish I was better at myself. I'm not good at any of this. I want to be this way more often than not, right? I want to be a person who is willing to do the hard thing because it's right. And I'm not. I know I'm not. I'm not I'm not a modern knight to do this. But I try to be. And in my own little ways, I try to be. And I think this is something that we all need to try to be. He talks later that, he says later that he comes in a world of iron to make a world of gold. This is what he is doing. He is putting himself out there to right the unrightable wrong. And he explains exactly why. Why is he doing this? He says if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, this is that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. Okay, great. But more importantly, and the world will be better for this. That one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star. Yeah, he knows he's not going to be praised for his quest. One doesn't receive scorn and think it's right. This is an awesome thing. No, scorn is typically bad. He knows this. You don't become covered with scars because people gave you big hugs. No, not so much, right? He knows he's going to be facing a battle of some sort, and that's fine. He's a knight, as he sees himself. He expects trial by combat. He expects trial of morality. But he is going to go and he is going to fight and he is going to strive. And he knows, he talks about later, that he may fail. But that doesn't mean he's going to stop. Nothing in that. He has no space in him for seeing Aldonza as anything else but a lady. Right? And treating her as a great woman. Which she is not used to. He wants to treat the world as a place that can be better. Even when the world doesn't want to be treated that way. Right? And yeah, the muleteers, these are hard men doing a hard job. And they do hard things. Okay? And not in a good way. These are, again, these are not the uprighteous of the world, right? That isn't even a word, I don't think. But they're not these are not your fine and upright citizens. After a fight in the courtyard where Don Quixote, Aldonza, and Sancho fight off the muleteers, they, okay, victory is good. Uh, there's a couple of other fun things that happen. There's a song where he gets dubbed a knight by the innkeeper, which is fun. With a song that has the double entendres are fun in the song. Yeah, when he talks about how the innkeeper, he says, I'll remember you the rest of my life. Sure, you can say that as, yes, you're great and awesome, or I will remember this madman for the rest of my life, right? It's, you know, you can hear on both levels, and it's still, and it's a fun song. Okay. But after the fight, Don Quixote is going to go tend to the wounds of the people he fought. Nobility demands it, he says. And she insists, no, I'll take care of it. You go rest. And he says, I couldn't ask you for that. She says, no, they were my enemies too. And she goes to tend to their wounds. And they turn on her. They kidnap her. And they do very unseemly things to her. And well, they never show it, of course. But you know exactly what they've done to her. Yeah, it's not great. And what he finds her on the side of the road, and after the muleteers have used her up and left her there, she curses him. She calls him out for his insanity and tries to get her to see her as she sees herself. As she describes herself in the song that she uses to do this, she describes herself as she's I'm no one, I'm nothing, I'm only Aldonza the whore. You know, she sees herself as having been cursed for being born, that she's born of nothing, she'll always be nothing, and nothing is all that she is. And she has built herself up to deal with her reality, that this is what she gets. This is what she deserves. She, in the same song, she talks about how blows and abuse I could take and give back again. Tenderness I cannot bear. And she lays into Don Quixote for reasons, right? It makes sense. Her world is not as he sees it, and she's trying to get him to understand. And he answers her that in the musical, I think he answers at the end of her song. She drops that line about she's nothing. She says, "Now and forever you will always be my lady Dulcinea." Right, but you know, he that's not what he will see in her. He will see in her the great lady. He will not see in her, again, as she puts it in the song, Aldonza the whore. That's not reality for him. So this is where we're at now. Now, let's take a step back, because obviously Don Quixote is, in the story, a rich Spanish landowner who has gone slightly mad, right? Turns out he's survived by a niece who is getting married to a doctor, Dr. Carrasco. And the doctor does not relish a madman for a relative, as I think is how he puts it in the play. And he is convinced that he can break Kahana out of his madness from within. And he succeeds. But what's interesting is to look at what is he curing him from. Okay, his belief that he's a knight. Okay, that's fair. But this is what Quixona's life is dedicated to. Was one, the quest that we just talked about. But he also lists a number of other things, right? To call nothing thine except thy soul. Love not what thou art, but what thou may become. This is, do not pursue pleasure, or you may have the misfortune to overtake it. Be just to all men and courteous to all women, right? He is coming to be a beacon of hope and life and service and love and humility. This is what he wants. This is what he's trying to be. Yes, in his delusion of knighthood, but his vision of what one person can and should be doing. And this is what Carrasco wants to cure him of. Right? The belief that one man can strive to make the world better is a belief that's too radical to be permitted. And so he must be stopped. And he is. He is. And it's crushing, right? And in the movie, at this point, it breaks. This is where he's left. And then the Inquisition calls and says, "We're coming for you soon." Well, turns out the rest of the prisoners who he's telling this story to are not happy with this ending. He says, "Okay, I will improvise an ending." And the ending is powerful. It is powerful in the light of everything that has gone on throughout this story. We come back into the play that he's putting on for his defense for these prisoners. And we see Alonso Quijano on his deathbed. And he is definitely on his deathbed. He is, Sancho comes to visit him, but talks about these sort of trivialities of life. Quijano then calls for the priest, said, "Okay, I wish to make out my will." Says, "Okay, I'm going to leave everything to my niece, except for a few personal bequests." And as he's about to start those personal bequests, Aldonza comes in. And she refuses to be denied entry to this room. And she has a strong personality. She is, as he called her when he introduced her, when we were introduced to her, a tigress red in tooth and claw. She will not be denied. And she comes in and she sees not Alonso Quijano, the dying, wealthy landowner. She sees Don Quixote. And she convinces him that he is, in fact, Don Quixote. How does she do that? By reminding him of Dulcinea. Says, you knew me once. You called me by another name. You called me Dulcinea. And she sings the reprise to a song he sang to her about how wonderful she is. This vision of Dulcinea that he has. And he rises from his bed and yes, he is Don Quixote for a brief, glorious minute before he does in fact die. Because he is an old man and he is dying. Okay. But here's where things get really moving for me. They're leaving the house, and they're mourning him. They're mourning the death of Don Quixote. And Sancho's talking about how he's going to miss him. And he turns and calls her Aldonza. And she looks back and corrects him. Her name is now Dulcinea. She is who he saw in her. She isn't nothing. She isn't no one. She isn't just a person to be used and discarded. She sees herself as a great lady, she's not denying the reality of who she was. She is seeing who she can be. She is seeing the greatness that Don Quixote saw in her. And his willingness to see life as it should be changed her life. And this is why this movie, Man of La Mancha, is so powerful to me. It is a lesson. Can we live in such a way that our lives, the way we treat other people, help them to want to see the best in themselves? Are we striving to make the world better? Are we striving to help other people be better? And I cannot say enough about how this movie moves me. Even just talking about it now, I've got tears in my eyes. It's so powerful for me. And yes, to a modern audience watching Man of La Mancha here 40, 50 years later now, yeah, it's a little slow at times. And, I get that. But when you sit and listen to the message of what's actually being presented here, it never ceases to move me. When I hear some of these songs come up on my playlist, because they do, yeah, I will often just stop what I'm doing to listen, because they are so powerful. So yeah, I would encourage, if you have the opportunity, watch Man of La Mancha. And go into it with that view of what difference can one person make. And there's a line early in the movie says that, yeah, poetry demands imagination, and with imagination you may discover a dream. And that dream of something better is what drives the character of Cervantes. It drives Don Quixote, and it changes a life. And on that note, be excellent to each other. And this is Music Free Static signing off.